Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex. I'm coming to you from next to my sister's old-timey furnace. I'm headlining a comedy club in Boston this weekend, so I'm out here, I'm on the road, but that doesn't mean I can't give you the top 25 games coming to retail. I do this video every month, run through about 25 or so of the best games that are hitting retail stores, both friendly local game stores, online marketplaces, that sort of stuff. I recently had somebody ask, well, how do you determine the best games coming to retail? And a bunch of different ways. I watch a lot of videos about these games so I can learn about them. I read reviews. And then I also pick based on what looks cool. Sometimes I see a game and I'm like, that doesn't look very good, and so I'm not going to include it in this. And then other ones I maybe would have included, but it got a bunch of bad reviews, and so then I take it off the list. Because every month there are typically more than 25 games hitting retail, so I want to just pull the best of them. Now, I do try to include all different types of games. There are games that are good for different people, right? There's Euro games, there's party games, there's family games, there's light strategy games, and everything in between. So let's get into it. This is April. These are the top 25 board games hitting retail in the month of April 2023. Oh, I almost forgot, but before I move on to the rest of the video, there's a couple of reprints this month that I think people will want to know about. I don't normally talk about reprints in this video, but these have both been out of print and very popular, and so some people might want to know. Flamecraft is getting reprinted and is available this month, and Turing Machine is also available this month. So not new games that came out in the fall, but games that were wildly popular and sold out quickly and now are available again. Back to the regular video. 25th Century Games is releasing the solo-only game, Resist. So this is a good time to note that these are retail releases in North America, because Resist was an Essen release last year from a company called Salt and Pepper Games, but 25th Century Games is bringing it over to the North American market, and it looks awesome. If you like solo-only games, this one would be a great one. And I always want to mention, a solo-only game, you could also play it cooperatively with one other person and just make decisions together. It's not like, no, this game will be ruined if you play it with another. This game is set to self-destruct if you try to bring another person into it. No, that doesn't happen. And so Resist is a war-themed game. You are playing as the Spanish Maquis in Spain, 1936. You are a group you're a resistance fighters. You are a group of rebellion folks fighting against the people that are loyalist to the Republic. And so it's a solitaire style game, and one of the interesting things about it is you are playing cards to sort of complete these missions, fight these missions, but you can either reveal your card and get a stronger benefit, but then it's out of the game for you, or you can instead take its hidden ability and you get to keep the card in your deck for later missions, but it won't be as strong for that one particular round. So, how are you going to sort of assemble your team of resistance fighters? You want to keep some hidden, you want to keep some public, that sort of stuff. And it just makes a really interesting dynamic in the game. It's one of those games where you're going to try to complete missions, and the more you complete, the better your score will be. There's a range of, hey, if you did this, you're average. If you did this, you're really good. And if you did this, you're really amazing. That sort of thing. So it plays in 20 to 40 minutes, so it's one of those ones, easy enough. If you lose the game, set it up and play it again. But you better play it by yourself, okay? That is the game Resist. Alley Cat Games is releasing the game Autobahn to retail. Autobahn is a heavier weight game, maybe on the lightish of the heavyweight category. Plays in 90 minutes to 3 hours, 1 to 4 players. And in this game, you are building roads, delivering goods, and getting up the Ministry of Transport ladder. So it's about the Autobahn in Germany, the big freeway system. So it's an economic game at its core. You are building roads, and there's route building, and you're upgrading roads, and you're putting trucks down on your roads and then driving those trucks to other countries to deliver goods. One of the interesting things, though, about it is you have meeples. There's a sideboard, and you are moving your meeples up a track there and getting promotions, and those will get you multipliers and more points at the end of the game. So it's not just the economic route building. There's also a bunch of other stuff going on in the game. So if you're a fan of route building or optimizing efficiency and that sort of stuff, Autobahn seems like it would be a good one for you. You'll have cards in your hand, and the cards you play will give you different actions. So it's about determining which actions you need that turn, that round. So that is Autobahn from Alley Cat Games. Devere Games is releasing Ierusalem, Anno, Domini. So this is the theme of this game is the Last Supper with Jesus Christ, and you are trying to get as close to possible to Jesus. You want to be sitting right next to him at the Last Supper. You got a better view, you can touch glory, if you will. And so you are doing a bunch of stuff to try to get yourself better positions at the table. Different positions at the table, the more prime locations are going to cost more resources. So you need to build up your engine to get those resources so that you can get those spots. The main element of the game is cards. Each card has a symbol corresponding to one of the 5 key locations in the game. And as you play them, you form combinations that allow you to bring the apostles to the table of the Last Supper. The optimal placement of your followers around Jesus and the apostles will also be done through management of letters as well as various resources at your disposal. This is a medium weight game, plays 1 to 4 players in 90 minutes. And so it's resource management. It has a lot of game behind it, but certainly the theme is what's going to make people take notice of this and make you either really interested in it or not as interested in it. So if you want a Euro-y type of medium weight game with a theme of the Last Supper, this is a good one for you. Draco Studios is releasing 3 games to retail this month. Draco is one of the biggest publishers out of Mexico. I got a chance to meet them at Mega XP, Mexico City's largest board game convention last year, and it's really fun to see some good things coming out of the Mexican marketplace because it's growing a lot and they're doing some fun stuff in games. The first of the games I'll talk about is called Regroup Chicken Army. This is limited in its quantities, so if you're interested in it, probably one to get sooner rather than later. I love the game. When you're talking about a little small box card game, this is one I have and I've been playing a lot because it comes in a box about that size. And it's a puzzly game, but it's also a quick game. It plays in 10 to 20 minutes, 2 to 4 players, and you are drafting cards out of a market, adding them to your tableau. But it's one of those things where every card has 4 things on it, and you have to cover up at least one thing already in your tableau, which makes for some hard decisions because you want everything. The other cool thing about it is you only get to activate the abilities of certain things if you are creating groupings of them. So one sword by itself doesn't get any attack, but now you've made two swords next to each other, you get two attacks. And how can you build on that as the game goes on? And so you are just puzzling your cards together and then attacking everybody else and trying to defend as much as you can. So it's really a let's all beat each other up type of game. There is player elimination, but the game is so fast it doesn't matter. You know, it's if you get eliminated, you're out for 5 minutes maximum, and then you can replay the game. So I love the puzzliness of it. There was Fall of the Mountain King came out earlier this year from Burnt Island Games, and there was this ancestry mechanism where you were, you know, building out your tableau, doing similar things where you're covering up stuff and then using those for actions. And I loved that part of the game, but some of the other things in the game I didn't love. Well, essentially, Regroup Chicken Army just takes that one sort of mechanism and makes a game around that. So I really like it a lot. And again, if you're looking for just a small box card game, it's a real fun one. The next game from Draco Studios that I'm going to talk about is Kiwi Chowdown. This is an area control game at its core. You are fighting people for control of different areas on the board. So you gotta like area control to like this game. It has really fun artwork and a really fun theme of voracious Kiwi tribes trying to control the Creature Kingdom island. So, you know, if you ever thought, wow, I wonder if Kiwis came to life and, you know, ate other things. It's weird that you were thinking about that, but now there's a game for you, you know? One of the cool things about the game, one of the interesting things about the game, is you can build up your Kiwis and make them more powerful. When you feed them, they grow and then they can push smaller Kiwis out of the way. They become more powerful. But if you feed them too much, they explode and you lose them. They're off the board. So there's a fine balance between trying to, you know, power them up, but not power them up too much because then you lose their benefits. So, you know, exploding Kiwis. Get out of here, exploding kittens. Kiwis are the new thing. We got exploding Kiwis now. And then the third game I'm going to talk about from Draco Studios is Dragonbond Lords of Vaala. This is a high fantasy setting theme game, so if you're a big fan of dragons and stuff like that, well then Dragonbond is for you. It's a 60 to 120 minute game that plays 1 to 4 players. One of the interesting things though, 4 players is certainly the best player count of this game because you are playing either as a general or a dragon, and those two things will have asymmetric abilities. They play differently from each other. But the reason why I say it's best at 4 players is because the unique thing of this game is that when a general and a dragon are in the same region, they have a chance of becoming dragon bonded and then playing as a team. So you can choose to team up with another player in the game. Now, the way to win is to get 10 power tokens. If you team up, then your team needs 15 power tokens. So there's that interesting decision of like, do I want to go it alone? Do I want to team up? You can play this game at different player counts. You don't have to play as 4, but then you have dummy players, essentially. So, you know, still works, but maybe not quite as exciting, quite as satisfying. But, you know, it's that I really like that idea of in the middle of the game, are you teaming up with someone else and making yourself stronger? Or is that going to make yourself weaker because you can't work together and things like that? So that is Dragonbond Lords of Vaala. Gamelin Games is releasing Tiny Epic Vikings. This is a new game in the Tiny Epic series, and if you don't know the series, they aren't connected in themes or mechanisms. They are all standalone games. The whole idea behind them is these are games with a decent amount of strategy, but in a smaller box. They are, you know, the box sizes are all the same, all pretty small, pretty portable, but have a lot going on and have a lot of strategy in them. I think the Tiny Epic series as a whole is hit or miss. I love Tiny Epic Galaxies, that's probably my favorite one, but some of them I haven't loved as much. I haven't even really liked. Tiny Epic Vikings is one of the best ones I've played, for sure. I would put it as either my second or third favorite in the series after Tiny Epic Galaxies. Personally, I've been playing it a decent amount. It is also an area control game. You are sailing ships around, placing Vikings on islands, building temples to get yourself more power, all with the idea of getting runes. You are trying to get these different rune stones. Both, you are trying to get them off of islands, and then you're also trying to get them from cards. But the thing I like the most about this game is the multi-use cards in the game. Because you can either play a card face down, and that's going to let you battle someone else, or you can play a card face up and then get the action on that card. And if you hold a rune stone, there's also a bonus action you can get. So it's really interesting trying to go, okay, do I want to fight somebody, and what kind of power do I have to fight somebody? Because if I'm going to start a battle, I want to make sure I win it. Or do I want to do things like using resources, getting resources, using resources to build stuff, using an action to sail? You know, there's a lot of different things you can do, and I like the multi-use cards because it makes it interesting the entire game of what are you going to do with each card that you have. I should also mention that it's card drafting, which I really like. So, you know, it's the very standard card drafting. You take a card, pass your cards, get some new cards, draw another card, that sort of stuff. But it's fun to kind of implement a strategy there. The game plays in about an hour, 1 to 4 players. And again, it is definitely an area control game. Has some cutthroat aspects to it where when you're putting Vikings on an island that somebody else has, you can take that island from them. You can, you know, kick some of their Vikings off of there and stuff. So again, you gotta like area control to like it, but to me it's all, the fun part about it is those multi-use cards. Randolph, in association with Hachette Board Games, is releasing both Linkto Food and Linkto Travel. So these are both cooperative trivia games. There aren't that many cooperative trivia games out there, and so that's one of the things that caught my eye with this. You know, definitely party game style games can play 1 to 10 players, and Linkto Food and Linkto Travel, the trivia in them is going to be based more on food or more on travel. You know, they're just sort of different themed cards in the game. So the way it works is there are 50 word cards, and you have 49 clue cards, and you are trying to match the clues with the cards. You are trying to, you know, figure out the answer to stuff based on, you know, cooperatively. You can talk about it. You can go, no, I think this one's here, or I think this one's here. You can even move answers around later in the game. If you're like, no, this one makes more sense for that question. Okay, we'll move this over here. Now, what's the answer to that one? So you can do all that sort of stuff. And then at the end of the game, the card that you have left over, you will flip it over and it will give you the link. It will give you sort of the answer. So you have to get all the other questions right to get the solution right, because you need to flip over the right card. So, you know, it's just, again, I like the fact that it's a cooperative trivia game. You know, that's the thing that makes it stand out to me, because, you know, trivia can make all of us feel dumb if you're like, man, I don't know any of these answers. Well, in this one, you're not going to feel dumb because you're working with everybody else. You'll probably know some stuff. Somebody else will know some stuff. You're all figuring it out together, which I like about the game. So that is Linkto Food and Linkto Travel. Inside Up Games is releasing the game Earth to retail this month. This had a wildly successful Kickstarter campaign. It has fulfilled to most of the people that backed it, and now a retail version of the game will be coming out. it is a game I highly, highly recommend. You know, it's already a leading candidate for me. This is one I've played multiple times, and it's a leading candidate for me to make a top 10 of the year video at the end of the year. You know, we'll see if it stays there, but the thing that's so cool about Earth is that you're always doing something. There is no downtime in the game, which is so satisfying. There are 4 main actions in the game, and regardless of what someone else chooses on their turn, you get a sub-action. So you are always, you definitely want people to pick something. You're like, I hope they pick the yellow action this turn because that's going to be really good for me. And no, they didn't. They picked the red action, but I'm still getting some stuff out of it. So you always feel like you're gaining. You always feel in the game, both in that you're doing stuff and that you're competitive. You know, you're like, oh, I'm still in it because all the time you're getting stuff and you're like, they're scoring a lot for that thing, but I'm scoring a lot for this thing. So we'll see at the end of the game how it shakes out, you know, which one's gonna get us more points, sort of stuff. It also looks really gorgeous on the table. You know, it's a nature-themed game, and I will say there's been a lot of nature-themed games over the last couple of years. Probably something about like the pandemic where we weren't really going outside very much, and now a couple years later, we all want board games about being outside. This one, you know, there is probably a little bit of me that has been burned out in nature-themed games, but this one, that's how good this game is because I'm like, I don't care that I'm like a little bit burned out in nature-themed games because this one's so fun, I want to play it. You know, it rises above all of the other nature-themed games that have been coming out recently. It can play really fast too. You know, it's a game that plays in 45 to 90 minutes. But if you all know what you're doing, it's definitely on the shorter side, and it's just boom, 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 boom the whole time. Plays 1 to 5 players, which is nice to have that 5th player in there. And, you know, again, just looks gorgeous, and you're always doing stuff, and it's really satisfying. And you can really build a cool engine in the game, you know. At the start of the game, you're only activating that action, but then you're activating the action and then all of the stuff in your tableau that corresponds to that action color, you know? So later in the game, I'm like, I'm doing this action, but then I'm also activating this card and 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 this card. It's just, it's really satisfying and worth checking out for sure. If you want a lighter themed nature game, Last Night Games is releasing Horticulture to retail. Horticulture is a 1 to 10 player game that plays in 20 minutes and is a lot, you know, easier to teach than Earth. This is a family weight style game. You can play it with 8 years old and up. In the game, it's almost like a roll and write, but there's no rolling, and the writing is done however you want to do it. There's not restrictions really placed down. In the game, everyone plans and plants their own garden. So it's going to have a garden path, it's going to have a gnome, and then on a turn, one player is going to pick the type of plant that they are adding to their garden, and then you are going to draw that into your garden, and you're going to score points based on how you wanted to set up your garden at the beginning of the game. Certain things are going to score points for being next to other things. Certain things are going to score points for being next to the path. That sort of stuff. So, you know, again, it's a nice, light, peaceful, just drawing a garden and trying to maximize your placement points when you're doing it. And nice that it can play up to 10 players. And honestly, can probably play more than that if you want to use up sheets and stuff like that for the game. Level 99 Games, in association with Asmodee, is releasing Dead by Daylight, the board game. This is a tabletop game version of the popular online video game Dead by Daylight, and this had a very successful Kickstarter campaign, raised over $1 million on Kickstarter, and now is having its retail release. So it is a one versus many game, and that's a mechanism I really like, but there's not a ton of great games using the one versus many mechanism. You will either play as one of 4 survivors, and you are exploring the board, revealing stuff, discovering props, and trying to repair generators. When you can repair all of the generators and find the exits, you will win the game. The one in the one versus many is playing as the killer. You are trying to hunt down the survivors, wound them, and place them on sacrificial hooks to summon a sinister force. So, as you can tell, it's a very dark theme. You know, it is a sort of horror genre theme about trying to survive or trying to kill. One of the cool things is the basic game comes with 7 survivors, 6 killers, and 2 maps. So there is a lot of replayability because you'll only ever have 1 killer in the game. So the fact that you have 6 different killers that are all going to play differently, that are all going to have some asymmetric abilities, will keep the game feeling replayable to you. And if you like that sort of dark theme, this is a good one. It plays 3 to 5 players and plays in 30 to 60 minutes and is that medium weight game. Fairly easy to get into, not crazy complex or anything like that. So you'll be able to jump into it decently easily. The other cool thing is there is some hidden movement in the game because as survivors, you are trying to move around the board without, you're just trying to secretly select the paths that you're moving along and that sort of stuff. So I like that idea of it. And again, if you're a fan of the video game, I'm sure you will like this. Or if you're a fan of just sort of dark, sinister themes, you will also probably like this one, Dead by Daylight, the board game. Lucky Duck Games, in the complete opposite end of the spectrum, is releasing My Shelfie. This is a family weight game, plays 8 years old and up, plays in 30 minutes, 2 to 4 players, where you are building up your shelf. You are drafting tiles from a board and then dropping them into this sort of Connect 4-esque area. You know, the tiles that you draft have to be dropped in one column. So that's the interesting thing about the game. You have to pick one column and one column only to add the things you just drafted. Next round, you'll draft other stuff and add it to a different column. And you are trying to meet objectives, both personal and public objectives. So if you get this color thing in this spot in your board, you'll get points, that sort of stuff. So it's really about that table presence. You know, it's that fun dropping it down into that Connect 4 3-dimensional grid board. I don't even know what you call it, but you know what I'm talking about. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a light game and it looks fun on the table. It's easy to teach, but has some interesting decisions because you probably won't be able to get everything you want. So how do you get some things and sacrifice other things to maximize your points with building out your Shelfie? And obviously in board games, we love the term Shelfie because that's a picture of our board game shelf. This is not your board game shelf. This is just like a bookshelf that has things like trophies and books and stuff, you know? Things that normal people put on their shelves rather than having it all filled with board games like we do. I love the term Shelfie because it's kind of like, ooh, how can we take a nerdy thing and make it nerdier? This is not a selfie, this is a Shelfie. Pandasaurus Games is releasing the game Roller Coaster Rush. This is a re-implementation of the game Coaster Park, and Coaster Park was fairly panned because it didn't really work physically. You were trying to build a roller coaster. Well, this version physically works a lot better. You have plastic molded pieces instead of cardboard pieces, and you are dropping a marble down this roller coaster and trying to get it as far as it will go. So you're adding, different, hills and turns and things like that to your roller coaster. The main part of the game is not just building your roller coaster, but drafting roller coaster pieces. So you will get a roller coaster, you'll get a random assortment of pieces to start the game, and then you can sort of put them up for auction, and people can draft and buy and bid on pieces that they think will help their roller coaster. So it's not just, bidding, it's also like physics, right? Oh, I think that piece is going to make my marble go further, and so that's the interesting part. You're running your roller coaster all the time and then going, okay, that piece doesn't work there, so what else can I put there instead to make my roller coaster better? This is certainly a family weight game. There's not a ton of strategy here, but there is a ton of dropping a marble and seeing how far it goes. So this is a game you're probably going to want to play with kids and things like that, because it's just fun to make your roller coaster go around turns and go over humps and that sort of stuff. Plays in 15 to 30 minutes, 2 to 4 players, and plays 8 years old and up. Paverson Games is releasing the game Distilled. This is another game that had a successful Kickstarter and now is having its retail release. This is a economic Euro-y type of game, but about distilling alcohol. So it's not a drinking game, it is a game about booze. There is way too much going on in it for it to be a drinking game, but it is a game about distilling spirits. So you're going to be doing a lot of different stuff in order to sort of build your engine to distill spirits. It's got resource management, it's got some push your luck aspects. You are using cards to purchase new ingredients. You're investing in upgrades to your distillery. You are distilling the spirits and sending it to the warehouses for purchase. That sort of stuff. So again, highly thematic, but a Euro-y type of game where you're managing resources and doing a lot of stuff. One of the things I think is cool about the game is I'm a fan of booze. I'm a whiskey guy or a tequila guy myself, but you actually learn not only about the process of distilling spirits in this game, you also learn about spirits that you maybe have never heard of. There are spirits from around the world, from different countries around the world, from different cultures, and there's actual information in the game about this is what this spirit is, and so you can learn about some of the most popular booze from other cultures, and I think that's cool too in the game. It also, just looks really cool on the table. There's definitely a lot going on. It's a bit of a table hog. But the theme and the theme mixed with the mechanisms makes it a unique experience to me. Pencil First Games is releasing the game Maul Peak. This is, if you've ever played the game Skulk Hollow, this is a standalone sequel. So you don't have to have played Skulk Hollow at all. This is a standalone game, and in fact, it's not exactly the same game. It's a different game. But one of the cool things is you can combine the two games if you want to. You don't have to, but they are compatible with each other. Maul Peak is a 2-player only game. It is a 40 minutes in the game, and one of the things that's interesting about it is very asymmetric. The stuff that the two people are doing are quite different from each other. It's a combat game, and in this version of the game, you are playing either as a tribe of bears that are fighting, or you're playing as a guardian. There are 4 different guardians in the game, and so each of those have asymmetric abilities too, so there's some replayability in that way as well, because you are, each guardian is going to play differently and have different things that it's doing. So you are essentially fighting against each other as these 2 different factions and trying to win the game. So that's exciting. What? You're trying to win? Come on, we're just here for the fellowship. No, everybody wants to win. And again, like I mentioned, it can be combined with Skulk Hollow, so you can then play it up to 4 players, you can play 2v2, you can play 1 versus many, you can do different different types of gameplay if you combine Maul Peak with Skulk Hollow. Pretzel Games and Asmodee is releasing the game Camel Up, the card game. So a bunch of years ago, Camel Up came out, and it's one of the most fun and silly racing games out there. Camels are racing around the track. They can get stacked up on each other. There's a crazy camel that's running in the opposite direction that might pick up a camel and take it away. And you are betting on which camel is going to win the race. It is one of the best silly racing games out there. Well, Camel Up, the card game, is essentially making a card-only version of Camel Up. So a much smaller box, a smaller price point, all of that sort of stuff. One of the things, though, I've seen about this version, normally when there is a card version of a game, it is a simpler version. This game actually might be a little bit more strategic, a little bit more complex, and a little bit less silly because you have some more agency over what's going on. Because you are going to get some cards and then add cards that correspond to certain color camels. You are adding cards into a shared deck and then revealing those so that you know how camels are moving forward and how they are racing. So you know a little bit more in this version than you do in the original version. You know, okay, I'm putting these colors in, so there's at least some probability that that camel is going to move forward, so maybe I bet on that camel, or maybe I bet on something else. So again, you know, it gives you a little bit more knowledge than the original Camel Up game. This one plays 2 to 6 players. The original played 8 players, so it does cut the player count a little bit. And it plays in 30 to 45 minutes. So, you know, it still keeps that wackiness. There is still the crazy camel that's running in the opposite direction. There is still, you know, camels that can... I don't know if there's actually camels that can get stacked up on this one. I don't know how that works. I haven't played it yet, but I like the idea of it. I like the idea of a more portable version of the wildly fun Camel Up game. Queen Games is releasing 4 games to retail this month. These are the first 4 games in the Stefan Feld City Collection. So Queen Games is making a lot of city games designed by Stefan Feld. Many of them are reimaginings of older games, but some of them are also original games. So I'll go through the 3 reimagining ones first, and then I'll give you the one original one. Now these also, all of these had a Kickstarter for the deluxe edition. So the deluxe edition is not what's coming to retail. What's coming to retail is a thing called the classic edition, and then they also are going to release something called an essential edition for a lot of these games. So the deluxe edition is what you expect. It's all wooden pieces and bits. It's dual layered boards with insets. It's a big central board, that sort of stuff. The classic edition has, you know, not as premium of components, but also a much reduced price tag, which is nice. And then the Essential Edition will have even simpler components and even a more reduced price tag. So all 4 of these games, I'm referring to the Classic Edition because that's what's hitting retail right now. So, you know, still have a lot of wooden bits. The Essential Edition will reduce the Classic Edition's wooden bits to cardboard bits. So this will still have, the Classic Edition will still have a lot of the wooden bits, but not the dual layered boards and not as big of a board and that sort of stuff. So let's get into the actual games here. The first in the City Collection is Hamburg, and this is a reimagination of the game Bruges. And the reason why it's not just an updated edition, a new edition of Bruges, is there are gameplay changes in these games. It's not a wild amount of gameplay changes. If you know Bruges, you will know the core of Hamburg, but there are going to be some, changes in some of the mechanisms, some smoothing out, some, essentially Queen gave Stefan Feld the opportunity to say, hey, do you wish you had done something different, or do you think there's something that needs fixing in that game? Now is your chance to do it. So Hamburg is a medium weight Euro style game. You are building your influence in Hamburg while avoiding threats. One of the things I like though is you roll dice at the start of the round, and 1s and 2s are going to let you go up on this track. 5s and 6s are going to be bad for you. They are going to get you bad things. What are they called? Catastrophes? Calamities? Something like that. They're called something bad. They're a bad thing. So the different dice rolls are going to get you sort of different stuff. But there's also, on your turn, you are playing cards from 5 stacks of cards, 1 for each of the 5 colors in the game, and those cards are going to get you different things. So it's really about how do you use the cards, the multi-use cards, and trying to avoid disasters and racing for different objectives. It is a 1 to 5 player game that plays in 60 to 90 minutes. So again, if you are a fan of Bruges, or you've always wanted to try it but never did, this is probably a better jumping in point now. Or if you're just a fan of Euro games, Hamburg is going to be a good one for you. The second game in the Stefan Feld City Collection is Amsterdam, and this is a reimagination of Macau. This is a little bit heavier than Hamburg and Bruges. This is, you are delivering goods, you're building the city, and you're building your tableau using a unique dice selection method. So this also uses dice like Hamburg does, and in the game you are rolling dice and then deciding which dice you want to take, and they will get you corresponding cubes that then you use to do stuff in the game. But the more the dice, the more pips on the dice, the later you will get those things. So yeah, if you activate a 6, you're getting 6 things, but you're also putting it on a wheel in the 6th spot, so you're going to have to wait a bunch of turns to get all of those resources. So do you want less resources that you can use sooner, or a lot of resources that you can set up an epic turn later? It's that hard push and pull of deciding whether you want stuff now or stuff later. So this one, it says, re-implementation of Macau. It's got a new setting, it's got improved card balance, and it's got new gameplay elements in the game. It challenges players to build combinations of abilities as well as to correctly calculate the advantage of delayed gratification for actions. So that wheel and that dice, that action stuff is to me, it's the main thing that sets this game apart. But you'll also be sailing and delivering goods and picking up stuff, and there's a lot more than just that sort of dice action system. That is Amsterdam. The third game in the Stefan Feld City Collection is New York Zoo. This is a re-implementation of the game Rialto. This is another medium weight Euro type of game. In this one, you are drafting your plans to build the most skyscrapers in New York City. And, they are actual little skyscrapers that you're putting on the board. So the table presence is pretty fun. There's going to be a lot of different size skyscrapers on the board at different points in the game and that sort of stuff. It's also, I like bidding in games. And so there's bidding for this where the cards you play will determine the strength of your action, with the player who bids the highest getting a bonus. So you get to bid for stuff and then do actions and build skyscrapers. So that sounds fun to me. The last of the games that is hitting retail this month from Queen Games is the game Marrakesh. This is this is the fourth game in the Stefan Feld City Collection, but this is an original game. This is not a reimagination of another game. I should also mention that, I did note that there were deluxe editions of these games. Deluxe editions are never coming to retail, but they are available through Queen Games' website. So if you want the deluxe edition of any of these games, you can still get it. It wasn't a Kickstarter exclusive. It's just a Queen Games website exclusive. But then these classic editions are the ones that you can find in friendly local game stores and that sort of stuff. You know, the other nice thing I didn't mention, not just the reduced price point, but also reduced size box. You know, the deluxe editions come in very large boxes. The classic edition is a standard size box. So if shelf space is a premium for you, then that's another reason to get the classic edition. So jumping into Marrakesh here, this is another medium weight Euro game. This has a big cube tower in it, and that's what makes the game kind of exciting and different. Every round you are selecting 3 of your little, they're called keshes in the game. They are essentially just little cylinders, but they correspond to different actions and places, locations on the board. You are taking 3 of them from behind a privacy screen. All players are doing that, and then we're dropping them down this cube tower, and they come out, and then they get placed onto corresponding actions, and then we go around and draft those things. So, I really wanted to do the pink thing. Well, there are 2 pink cylinders here, so I'm going to take those and I can do 2 things in the pink area now. And I'm somebody that, likes strategy, but also likes a little bit of excitement in the game. I don't want just a dry Euro. I want a Euro that's mixed with something exciting, and dropping stuff down a cube tower really fulfills that excitement to me. So it's a real fun game. I had a chance to play this one a couple of weeks ago for the first time and really liked it. It plays in 120 minutes, plays 2 to 4 players, and medium weight Euro type game. Resonim is releasing the party game Glitch Squad. If you are a fan of word clue games like Codenames, Decrypto, So Clover, Just One, things like that, then I think you will like Glitch Squad because it fits into that genre very well. And it's the thinky party game, right? It's a party game that plays 4 to 8 players, plays in 15 minutes, but it has some real interesting thinkiness to the game because I'm trying to get my partner to guess a specific word. So I am writing 3 clues down to point them to one word, one thing. But the other team then can erase one of my 3 clues and write something else, can glitch one of the clues. And so then you're trying to think of how can I glitch a clue that points someone in a different direction, How can I get them, because those three things, that's how you do 3, not like this. This is 4, Grant. Those 3 clues that you give are pretty strongly connected to one thing, but if you erase one of those clues and write something else, you can sort of steer thought into a different direction, and it's really interesting. And then your teammate has to pick which one of these clues is glitched and try to figure out the word. And so again, I really like this one. I had a chance to play it, the prototype of it, a year or so ago, and I put it on my most anticipated list of 2023 because I like party games like this that are, both easy to teach, but also get your brain going a little bit and have some interesting aspects to it. So that is Glitch Squad from Resonim. Asmodee, in association with Spin Master and Simon, is releasing Marvel Zombies to retail this month. Another game that had a very successful Kickstarter campaign and is now hitting your stores around you. This is a zombicide game, but with a Marvel theme to it. So this will actually, I got this game, and it will be my first zombicide game. I've never played a zombicide game. It's always been one I've been interested in, but never done. And there are a ton of different zombicide themes. They pretty much put a new zombicide on Kickstarter every single year. So, 50 years from now, we're still going to have a Zombicide on Kickstarter every year, but they're going to have run out of all the, main themes. So it's going to be like Zombicide stepdads, Zombicide Presbyterians. They're going to get really, really more specific with the themes. So this is a classic Zombicide game, which is a cooperative game where you are working together to complete some objectives and things like that. But the difference in this one is you are playing as zombified versions of your favorite Marvel heroes. You are Zombie Hulk, you are Zombie Captain America, you are Zombie this and that, but you are trying to eat people. You're trying to, in a normal Zombicide game, you are playing as the people trying to avoid zombies. In this one, you're playing as the zombies trying to get the people. And so I like that it flips, it's on its head a little bit. It plays 1 to 6 players in 60 minutes. One of the cool things about this version, rather than other versions of Zombicide, there are versions of Zombicide where you have to play it at 6 players. You cannot play it at another player count. You can play this one with less than 6 players. You don't have to have 6 players to play it. It's also got a ton of crazy cool miniatures in the game. There are a lot of miniatures in the game, so if you are a fan of miniatures, if you want to see Zombie Hulk in miniature form, this is your chance to do so. Skybound is releasing the party game Booty Call. This is a very silly party game. It's based on the Extra Fabulous comics by Zach Stafford. So Zach did all the art for this, so it's got all, if you're a fan of Extra Fabulous, that adult comic series, then this is an adult party game for sure. 17-year-old and up. Plays 3 to 8 players and plays in 50 to 90 minutes. I'm surprised they have 90 minutes listed here because I don't know why this would ever take 90 minutes. This is definitely more in that 30-minute range when I've played it. I've played it a couple of times. And again, really focuses on this silliness. One player will be acting as the ghost. They will know who they are in a lineup of characters. There are 8 characters out there, and one of them, the ghost, will be one of them. And everybody else is trying to guess which one the ghost is. The ghost can't just come out and say it because they're a ghost. So you have to ask the ghost questions, and then they give you information in different ways. They can give you information by knocking. They can give you information by making faces. They can give you information through sounds, through nonverbal sounds. And so, what sort of sound does the package handler make when he's walking? Maybe it's like, that's struggling with a heavy package there, right? Also feels kind of dirty, but that's the point, That's the point of this game for sure. That's why it's an adult party game. So if you want silly communication type of game, now's your chance, Booty Call. But it's like Booty Call because you hooking up with a ghost. Weird, also kind of hot. Wise Wizard Games is releasing the game Kapow, Volume 1, I should say. There will be Volume 2 coming out in June. Volume 1 is releasing right now. This is a 2-player only game. I suppose it says you can play it solo. I haven't done that. I've played it at 2 players a bunch. Plays in 20 to 60 minutes. And it's one of those games where you are rolling dice, assigning dice to stuff, and then attacking each other. It's just bam, bam, bam. How do you hit and how do you defend? Sounds a bit like Dice Throne, and it is certainly a bit like Dice Throne. I think this game is easier to get into. This has a little bit less rules overhead, a little bit easier to teach, plays a little bit faster. So to me, for sure, worth having in my collection. I'm going to keep Kapow for sure. There are some asymmetric characters, and that's why there will be a Volume 2, because that will add more characters. You play as either a hero or a villain. Now, you can play the game without one of those characters and just sort of play the base game, and then you and I have the same exact actions and defenses we can pick from, But if you add a character in, now there's some asymmetric abilities. Now there's some different stuff that each of us can do. So it adds some replayability and some interest to the game. So yeah, again, you're rolling dice behind a privacy screen and then choosing how to assign those dice to different actions and beat each other up. It's a lot of fun and plays real quickly. There's also upgradable dice in the game, so you can get both additional static dice to add to your pool, or you can get faces to add to your upgradable dice. There's one dice that you can get more dice, but there you can add faces to a dice and make it specific for actions that you want. So that's a fun aspect to the game as well. So that's it. Those are 25 of the best games coming to retail this month. If you want to support the series, see some of the other games that weren't included in this video, you're welcome to join my Patreon. It's patreon.com/GrantsGameRex. I appreciate the support because this video takes a lot of work communicating with a lot of publishers and doing a lot of research and that sort of stuff. So thanks for checking out my Patreon. I also do a best expansions coming to retail video. It usually comes out about a week after this one. So if you're interested in some of the expansions coming to retail this month, like Furnace is getting an expansion, Zombicide 2nd Edition is getting an expansion, and a bunch more are getting expansions. Stay tuned, tune back in for my best expansions coming to retail video. Thanks so much for liking and subscribing. It helps me a lot. I appreciate you sharing this video with other people. I don't think there's a lot of other people talking about retail releases, so if you want a game that's immediately and easily and cheaply available, these are the games for you. Thanks so much. I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex.